Hello and welcome to I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here, where we are all allowed to be perfectly imperfect. I'm Eileen Webb, a licensed psychologist, CBT and EMDR therapist, author, NLP practitioner, and as you can see, a podcaster as well. My guest this week is Kat, who is a mother of a 3-year-old boy. She has a demanding job in retail sector, and she has, in the past 2 years, recovered from an aggressive breast cancer. An amazing lady. Hi, Kat, and welcome to I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here. It's so lovely to have you here today.
It's lovely to be here. Thank you very much for inviting me on to the podcast.
Today, it's all about being perfectly imperfect. And so let's talk about you. Where does Kat come from? How is her life now? What brings you to right here, right now? How was your journey?
That's quite the question.
Yeah.
I'm one very, very tired mama. I have a 2.5-year-old son. I'm navigating life after breast cancer. I recovered well over the past couple of years, really. I was diagnosed in 2021. I have a job working for a big retailer, so that's super busy and causes a lot of stress. Probably the term I don't want to use, but it definitely is something that I experience. And I have a great family. I have a loving husband, very, very doting and committed, great dad. Very fortunate to have that. Not everyone is in that situation, so very, very lucky. And but I would say my life is probably 1,000 miles per hour, and sometimes people would probably think like, whoa, how is she managing her life in that way? And it's not for everyone. So yeah, that probably leads me to be the chaos that I am, I would say.
Yeah, and I think many people will still recognize that being a mom and being married, working, and you have you mentioned that you have been recovering from breast cancer the past 2 years. So there's a lot going on, and has the past 2 years must have been really, really, I will use the word stressful.
Mm,
Uh,
yeah, yeah,
so,
lots
so
of.
how are you? How are you? How have you been managing, and how are you managing? How are you juggling everything now? I'm sure many moms listening to us would love to hear how you manage your stress and what kind of things also adding to your stress in your daily life.
I would say, well, I would say, I know we're going to probably dive into this given the title of the podcast, but I do have a perfectionist nature. So I like to do things to what I deem a high standard, which I know is not always healthy. That is just kind of how I operate. So I would say my day-to-day life is quite stressful. The things that contribute to my stress are when things don't go right. Typically, work is a big contributor to that. So when I, again, don't live up to my own high standards, and that's when I notice that I suffer. And that might be when I change roles or, have a mini promotion or, whatever that might be. I do notice that's when my mental health slightly dips, and I can be really aware and conscious of it and why, because I'm not the expert in my role at that point for good reason, because I've just moved. But I do notice that I start to have that doubt of like, am I good enough? Am I, doing what they expect of me, and those kinds of things. So I notice that. And also, am I being the best mum that I can be? And you have the influence of social media, and whilst they're all really great for inspiration and the community, that like element of it, but you have the downside, which is there's always going to be someone somewhere doing something amazing, and incredible. And because I would say, vibrant and excitable, I would think, oh, okay, I'd like to do that, or I should be doing this, or I should be doing this. And before you know it, you can't live up to those standards. And again, you've got that whole, I'm not living up to the standards that I think I should be. And then you have the dip again, and in am I good enough? Am I this? Am I that? So they're probably the biggest contributors. And yeah, I would say motherhood and work for me, really.
Yeah, very, very big areas, aren't they?
Yeah.
Also, it's interesting with the social media that we watch people, and maybe we are looking at loads of people, but we compare their external pictures and so on with our internal worlds.
Mhm.
And we compare one life with 50 or 60, 80 pictures and videos that we look at. So then it just starts building that opinion that others are having so much fun and others are doing better, and
Yeah.
I'm not sitting, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that, oh, I gotta do this.
Yeah.
So but you are aware of it, you say that,
Yes.
yeah, so you step
Yeah.
away. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Very aware. And yeah, I will have breaks, and I will just not engage with it at times until I feel more stable. And yeah, I think awareness is half of the
Yeah.
solution, isn't
So
it?
you just walk away from it for
Yeah, I will have like maybe a few days where I don't look at social media and
amazing.
things like that. So yeah, I'm very, very aware, and I'm quite conscious of how I behave, and how that can negatively or positively contribute to my mental health. I know that, for example, Googling stuff, I know affects me negatively because I'll be worrying about something and sort of giving it the energy that it doesn't deserve. And so I will consciously not Google things and stuff. It's not always easy to control though, but I do try and manage my mind in that way. I know my mind is super active, so I have to manage it.
Yeah, it's really good. You can keep practicing, and practice makes progress, as we say. So because
Hmm. Hmm.
you mentioned something earlier. You said I think about what others would be expecting of me. So that's another part of perfectionism, because there are different domains. There is the expectations that we put upon ourselves. Well,
Yeah.
I should be able to do this. I must be that. And by
Mhm.
now I should have been, and so on. Yeah. So there are those expectations we have upon ourselves and then upon others,
Yeah.
that, oh, they should be able to do that. Why can't they do that? Why do I have to do everything? Well, they will never do it to my standards. And then you end up doing it, a lot of things yourself.
Yeah.
Mm, or the third one is, well, others would be expecting me to be able to deal with this. Others would expect me never to get anxious. Others would expect me to always have answers, and so on. So,
Hmm.
so what do you think of then the third domain? So is that something, if we think about the motherhood and work, which also felt like you mentioned, I guess it's okay when you uh, change role or get a
Hmm.
promotion, that for a while you feel a little bit like an imposter.
Yeah.
There's nothing there's nothing wrong with that. It's very normal in the first couple of months until you
Yeah.
settle. I
Yeah.
guess it's unhelpful if it keeps on.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh, so so how would you feel that might be affecting you? So besides your own expectations from yourself,
Hmm.
your perception of
Hmm.
what others might be expecting of you.
Yeah. Um, yeah, massively. Like massively. I think one thing I recognize about myself is that I do get a lot of validation externally, and it's something that I am always trying to work on. And um, I would say that within the work environment, it's quite dangerous because you are essentially putting your self-worth into someone else's hands, and it not only does damage your self-worth or temporarily damage it, but it makes you make different decisions and not take risks that you might have taken before and things like that. So I think it's definitely something that I resonate with, and I think like a lot of people do from the conversations that I have. And it's if I guess it's just it could prevent you from growing and, you know, putting yourself outside of your comfort zone, because if you're outside of your comfort zone and you feel that way, you might not, make those brave decisions and learn and grow, and because you have to make mistakes, right, to improve, because otherwise you don't learn.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yeah, I think it could just be quite restrictive there, and I have seen it myself. Sometimes I'm able to override it, which is great, and I do think that's probably from in the past where I've had therapy, to help recognize those thought processes and try and step in to that behavior. But yeah, it definitely resonates with me.
Yeah, amazing. You mentioned really something very important about perfectionism. You really hit the nail on the head there about putting your self-worth on
Mm,
things and on other people's um, approval as well.
yeah.
So how does that or has how has this been affecting you in the past, and when did you kind of become aware of it? Because really in perfectionism it's all about self-worth, isn't it?
Mm,
Helping others is about your self-worth. Your
yeah.
job, your report, your presentation, your exam results, your friendships is all about your self-worth, and
Yeah.
you feel worthless if something doesn't fulfill the standards
Hmm.
that you think should
Yeah.
be. So how did you start noticing this, or when did you really start noticing this?
I would probably, I definitely started noticing it where I used to work in the commercial area of the business that I work for, and it probably wasn't a job that really fitted with me, or was not really my calling. And whilst my perfectionism and my kind of want to do a good job probably kept me there, but then whilst I was in that role, I had lots and lots of self-doubt and, really a lack of self-worth, and really was constantly like flip-flopping around. I'm doing okay, or I'm not. I'm doing okay, I'm not. And that was because, well, because of many things. I wasn't in the right role. I was putting all my self-worth on everyone else, on everyone else's approval, but also it stopped me from not not believing in myself. That stopped me from moving on out to a different area of the business for 8 years. I did that for 8 years until I stepped out. And now I'm in a different role completely, and I help people, and I get to use, I'm really passionate about the mind and everything, and I get to use elements of that. And it's just so much better fit for me. But I would say that my lack of self-worth, driven by that need for approval and the need to be good at this thing that I didn't need to be good at anyway. And I probably was good at it, but it just, that probably inhibited my confidence and led me to think that if I can't do this, well, then why, how am I going to know if I'm going to do better elsewhere? So it probably kept me in a job really too long. And also, I was, I went through periods of depression. And it wasn't just my job, there was other things going on. But I would say that that caused a bit of a spiral. I also, I think we probably talked about this before, but I suffered with an eating disorder, and I think that's very common, isn't it, with that whole kind of perfectionism element. And that was around that time where I just wasn't really happy doing what I was doing. I didn't feel like that I was very good, at the job, and I wasn't able to control my body either. So it kind of spiraled, and that was a low time in my life, I would say.
So that stuckness at an unhappy place at your work where you do not feel fulfilled, but
Yeah,
too scared to try something new with the fear of failure,
yeah,
that it's going to make me feel even worse. It might even
yes,
worse if I try something new.
yes,
Then then you try to control your body, because
yeah,
eating disorder and everything else, really, even OCD, everything is all about us trying to gain some kind of control.
yeah,
And what can we control? We can control what we eat.
yes,
Yeah. So that's an attempt to gain some control in our lives.
yeah.
But so much awareness, and it's so beautiful that you have. I cannot imagine how much strength you have inside of you to get through so many things that you have been through. You got over the eating disorders as well. You got through that stuckness and tried something new and learned so much about yourself as well, that you learned you could
Yeah,
you
definitely.
do a lot better things in life as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So how do you notice with motherhood? I had another guest where we talked about. She mentioned it wasn't only about herself as a mother, but she was also like, my children. She had twins. She was like, they shouldn't be behaving like this. They should be behaving like that. Why are they doing this? Why can't they just sit still and
Mhm.
be as do as they're told, and so on. So do you find that there are some expectations upon yourself as a mother, but how does it come out when your child uh, doesn't do perhaps as he's told, or he's being a child? And
Yeah. Yeah, I've definitely noticed that there have been times where I have picked up on how I feel about what he's done. And then I've had to add an extra like layer to stop myself to go, no, he's just a toddler. He doesn't understand. He's learning. He's testing boundaries and stuff. That I'd say, fortunately, I don't think it comes out as much as I thought it might. But I also recognize that I don't want him to feel the need to be perfect as well, almost. So I don't know if maybe I'm compensating slightly. So where there might be a boundary that's needed, I'm probably less likely to enforce it because I'm trying to almost overcompensate to make sure that he knows he doesn't need to be perfect. So there's probably like a an overcompensation in that instance, because I'm very aware of how it can come out, and trying to address it, because I'm very conscious of how you raise your children makes a difference.
yes, and they don't come with
No,
uh, they don't come with user manual, which is
I wish
which
they
is
did.
really funny.
Yeah, definitely.
We kind of try to set those boundaries because they are important for them, but then there's also that you're so aware of expectations
Mm.
that you put upon yourself that you try not to.
Yes, I think that's
No,
probably.
to
a
not
good summary.
yeah, upon him. If perfectionism is getting in the way of you living your life to the full, then check out my new book, Perfectly Imperfect: Cultivating Your Self-Worth in a Demanding World. It's based on cognitive behavioral principles and can help you work on yourself. If I may ask, how did you start noticing those? I mean, we call this now perfectionism, but I didn't know
Yeah.
this had a name. And to be honest with you, I really thought as well, and I think that's the general idea. Perfectionism must be the perfect people who are living the perfect life, who are high flying in a really high flying job, making lots of money, have the best wife or the perfect wife or the perfect family and so on, which again doesn't exist. That
Mm,
there's that idea in the society about how things should be
mm,
at a certain age as well. Well, the things happen in certain ages, don't they? There's a time when you start celebrating everybody's 21st, and then you start having the 30th birthdays. Everyone goes from one 30th to another, and then comes the weddings just around that time, and then
mhm,
babies and so on. So so a lot of things happen in similar times. So society has this puts perhaps these rules and expectations upon us as well, which then affects the way
yeah.
we think about ourselves and what we should be doing and how we should be doing them. So
Mhm,
how would you think, what would you say about when you started noticing that those expectations you had from yourself
mm,
started becoming
mm,
perhaps burden,
mm,
stressful?
yeah. Uh, that's a good question because on reflection, it would be earlier, but consciously, I would say it probably wasn't until I'm trying to think how old I was in 2018.
Oh,
It
so
was,
it's quite, so you started feeling this pressure about five years ago. So
I would say that I was aware more than of that there were these pressures.
mm,
But what I would say is, as I mentioned, on reflection, they definitely were causing a burden way before that. So
yeah.
I would say maybe in school time.
Mm,
Yeah, it's hard to really pinpoint it because the time that I really started to sort of understand it was probably when I had my eating disorder, and then I sort of was reflecting on what's gotten me to this point, and I got some help, and that helped me to really process what what was I kind of putting on myself, and how I could try and challenge some of that thinking and stuff. So that's probably when I consciously noticed it. But yeah, I would say that even just throughout, probably from my teens up, because it's like, right, you have to get ready for life, and it's like everything is a stressor, and there's expectations everywhere, and there's always someone that's better than you. And as a natural, perfectionist, as we're saying, you want to be the best. You want to be that, like, top top of the list, and you're always wondering why you're not, if you are not. And then that comes the self-doubt and the excessive behavior to try and get yourself to that place in any element of life. So for me, it's like I went to the gym and I had to be lifting the heaviest weights, and every session I had to be doing heavier and heavier and heavier, when actually, on recent reflection of that, that's not the way to go about it at all. It's, you should show up for you and your health, and you know and feeling good in your body and releasing the endorphins, not to hit a number on a scale, or a number of weights that you can possibly lift. And then it became very stressful to try and keep that up. So, I'm a small person, so there was only a certain amount of weight that I could lift before I then would fail. So for me, I was like, well, I stopped going because I didn't want to fail. So that's where you get that kind of restrictive impact. And that's the same in all areas of my life. I would be getting good at something, probably through the wrong means. And then I'd get to a point where I'm not improving anymore because I'm going straight for that direct to win. I wouldn't be taking the side route, which actually would probably benefit me more and grow and learn and develop. I'd be going, right, how can I get to that winning spot as quickly as I can with the minimum impact or effort, I guess is probably the right word. And that doesn't mean I'm lazy. It meant that I just wanted to get there. And I was almost so determined to get to that point. I missed the point. Running is another one. So, exercise is probably a theme here, but I used to run so fast and I hated every second of it. I hated it. I punished myself, and you're not always going to get faster. You get to a point and you plateau because you're human. And if you are only ever trying to run fast, you don't build up what I think is your anaerobic engine. I can't remember which way around it is, but you know, there are other ways to train and to get fitter and to feel good. I was like, I just need to get faster, so I'm just going to run as fast as I can. And I hated it. And I ended up hating that time because it was like a horrible, sadistic punishment. Now I run for me. I run slower and it's brilliant. And I'm understanding that I don't need to be faster every time, but that is how my brain has been wired to like get to the winning point. And so lots of these examples were happening. They happened in work, they happened in fitness, they happened probably in friendship. I want to be the best friend. And I feel like if someone is doing something amazing, I should be doing that because I also want to be a good friend. And it's just really destructive thinking. So that just mounted over time. But I think 2018 was probably when I first really realized that I could change it, that I could, you know, try and improve my cognitions, I guess is probably.
Yeah, amazing. Because the fact that you are looking back now and explaining has got so much awareness within it as well. So I think that with that awareness comes the change,
Mm-hmm.
shift. Without awareness, we can't shift anything. And knowing doesn't shift either. So you are actually doing something about it and running for you, putting yourself first now.
Mm.
Rather than that, it sounded to me that there was that comparisons as
Yeah,
well.
definitely.
Well, they can do it. Why can't I? I should
Yeah,
be able to, and constantly doing it more and more compared
yeah.
to perhaps different people. Right, I got this one, but that's nothing. Everyone can do it. I'll go for more now, which is
Yeah.
very, very typical perfectionism, that you
Mm-hmm.
dismiss your achievements. Once you get there, it's like, it's nothing. Anyone can do.
Yeah.
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 You don't actually celebrate those achievements and really well done, say well done to yourself. You just
Mm-hmm.
move on to the
Mm-hmm.
next thing that you need to achieve. So
Yeah.
uh, just another question. Did it have any, having breast cancer, having through um, the treatment of breast cancer and recovery, if I may ask this question,
Yeah.
um, has it had any impact on the way you look at perfectionism and on the way you used to look at how things should be and how you
Yeah.
must do different, how
Mm.
you must be in different areas of your life?
Yes. 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 I it's probably had a lot of impact on me having breast cancer at such a young age and at such a hectic time of my life. And so I think that it's given me perspective. So that was really helpful because I was getting frustrated with not running fast enough, not, you know, not feeling like I'd done absolutely everything at work. Like I've missed two things off my to-do list, and I was,
Focus on what you haven't done
yeah,
rather than what you have done. So you have
yeah,
done 98%
yeah,
of the work and 2% is left for tomorrow, but
yeah,
you
yeah,
focus on that one.
yeah. And I definitely noticed a shift in that. I have the perspective of, well, I'm alive, I'm here, I'm really grateful for that. So for me, that really helps to take away that negative mind talk. I'm just like, well, actually, I'm here and I'm doing a good job. And by even just showing up and just trying my best. And so that's really helped. And obviously, it's a bonus, you know, it's not side effect, but it's an impact that it has had on me. And I would say that it's, I guess, raised the awareness of how impossible it is to be perfect. Obviously, no one can be perfect. We all almost acknowledge that, even if you do struggle with perfectionism. But it highlighted to me even more so because I guess perfectionism was taken even further away from me. So my body doesn't move in the same way that it did because it's been battered by chemo and radio. And so my bones are hurt more, my joints hurt more. I feel older and more sore, so I can't have the same athletic successes that I once had. So, like for me, that's highlighted that the variance there getting bigger has highlighted that it was always an impossible task. And when I felt like I was closer, it was more difficult to understand. But then when you're taking it like that bit further away, like I couldn't possibly get to that point that I had thought that I should be, it's made you think, I was chasing a, a pointless goal. It wasn't about that. It wasn't about the goal. It actually should be about every day and the journey and enjoying your life. So I would say that my focus has shifted from, rather than trying to achieve and get to these goals, it's shifted from what can I get out of each day and how can I try and make sure that I enjoy it. Now, whether that be the sadness, the happiness, the anger, I still experience all these emotions. But for me, I'm like, have I lived this day by absorbing everything I can get from it, rather than have I beaten my running time? Or have I done everything on my to-do list? Or has my boss said that I've done a good job? Like, I'm like, I feel, and Lee and I check in and we say, how's today gone? And we'll reflect on some things that, some successes. And it's really nice because it helps to frame the day and what you've learned and what you've taken from it, rather than beating yourself up about what you haven't done. So yeah, it's definitely had an impact. Definitely for the better. I feel stronger, happier, and yeah, more, I guess, more well-rounded, and just in the way that I think, I would say.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. That also reminds me where your focus goes, your energy flows. So the difference of, oh, I didn't get to do those two tasks today. Oh, I'm not good enough because I haven't
Yeah.
put the to-do list, to what have I achieved today? What good things have happened?
Mm-hmm.
And
Mm-hmm.
did I make the most out of today? And I
Yes.
was given another day as a gift.
Yes. Yeah, definitely.
I can completely, I love that as well. When I wake up in the morning, I'm like, I woke up.
Yeah.
Even another day, yay! What am I
Yeah,
going to do, with it? So
definitely.
amazing, amazing. Thank you so much. This is really, really amazing to chat with you. Is there anything that you feel we haven't covered that we could that would be useful?
Um, Good question. I think I've covered quite a lot of ground.
I agree. I think
Um, yeah, I think you really hit the nail on the head there with the impact that having breast cancer so young has had on me and how it's helped shift my mind. And it's almost forced me to live differently. And if I'm honest, that I feel really fortunate because I think I was probably taking life for granted a little bit before. And I sometimes say to my fellow warriors that like we're lucky because we've had a perspective shown to us, but we are still here to live, and that is a unique opportunity for us. But then it's like, how do you like bottle that up and help others to have that same shift in mindset without a drastic life event throwing that curveball? Something that I can't answer, but it's important to, I guess, try and learn from others that have had that situation and see how they're living their life and try to live a bit more like that, I guess.
yeah, and it sounds to me that you have also learned to accept and love and appreciate your imperfect self.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you know, it's it's definitely been a journey, and I I don't feel like I ever will not be that kind of core me, but because I know it's there, I can take steps to make sure that I manage that kind of thinking if anything ever arises where I see, oh, that's cropping up, and I don't feel like that is really healthy to think like that. I will either mention it to Lee or I will take action, myself and try and steer away. But I do think having awareness is so, so helpful. And so, yeah, that would be like my last kind of thing I would love to share is the awareness that all of this has driven, I think has been the biggest thing that's helped me to shift into a better mindset, I would say.
Yeah, more helpful. More,
Mm.
yeah. It's been amazing to have you here today as my
Thank you
guest,
for
and I'm
having me.
sure that many mothers as well, and people who have been through perhaps cancer treatments and struggling with work and home life with a toddler, they will find so much helpful from you. So thank you so much for
Thank you
coming
very much
and
for
joining
having me.
in today.
Been lovely talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in I'm a Perfectionist, Get Me Out of Here podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please do leave stars and a review. Help me spread the word by sharing this with your friends and family. My practical manual, Transformation Through the Power of Quotes, will help you or someone you know get through tough times and feel happier. It is now available on Amazon paperback and Kindle. You can also check out our website, mindandmood.co.uk. Thank you again, and remember, imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Bye for now.